Let me tell you something about this hoodie. I got this. We were in a small little ski town in upstate New York, and I was cold. So I went next door at a restaurant and bought I bought a hoodie for, like, you know how things are in ski towns? It's like buying something at a football game.
Like triple price.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, plus they planted a tree because I bought this.
Oh,
so,
for sure.
Yeah.
You definitely did. Yeah.
I pretty much offset a lifetime of carbon by I did. I really did.
You're a good person.
Yeah, I know I am.
Yeah. No, I'm not being sarcastic. You are a good person.
It's underrated how, like, I helped the forest and offset carbon just because I was cold in a restaurant.
Like, don't you just feel like when you impromptu find something that fits you, it's like the ROI on what it does for your ego is like a 10 times multiple. When you're a big dude and you just find something off the rack out of nowhere, it just feels like, oh, this is now my favorite hoodie.
It's right, and it's harder. I mean, it's hard when you're a player. It's really hard when you're a player. That's why I wore I wore Sean John jeans when I was a player.
Amazing.
Remember?
That's incredible.
Sean John. Yeah, that was
that really before you fully understood what the brand was, you just kind of were like, it fits.
Yeah, everything that fits. It's good. Yeah, well, no, you know what works? Built brand, I just discovered, BYLT, which is, I think it's cut for more athletic like builds.
Okay.
But also up to the 2X. But they're reasonable with their 2Xs. It's like, okay, yeah. We know you're not. We know you don't look like Micah Parsons 2X. We're we're gonna account for.
We're gonna accommodate the love handles just a bit.
Yeah, exactly. And I wear those clothes and like almost exclusively now because whenever I see anybody new and I'm wearing a built T-shirt, they're like, "Wow, you've been working out, huh?" I'm like, "Yeah."
Boy, have I. Yeah.
Well, they're you know what they are? It's a more structured dry fit material too. So it doesn't, you know, like normal thinner dry fit accentuates any man boobs or love handles or anything.
Brutal.
This doesn't
not
do it
flattering.
at all. No.
If you're not, and even if you're really feeling good about your physique recently, it still isn't that flattering. A lot of the dry fit stuff, you're just kind of.
Especially, when we used to have James Ahedebo come in a lot. Remember the safety?
Yeah.
He was really when he was most notable in the NFL. I think was when he was with the Ravens and the Jets. He was on some really good defenses there. But he's one of these guys that's just still works out and is still 3% body fat.
Right.
And he'd come in and Brandy would be watching on the cam. We used to have a webcam on the midday show. And she'd be like, "Wow, James, he has some really nice like Under Armour stuff and everything. That's really nice." I'm like, "Those are the exact same Under Armour clothes that I wear."
Shirt. I own the same. No, we're losing the webcams. No, absolutely not.
All right, so the Texans almost beat the Chiefs. They dropped one to the Chiefs. They played it close. Were you at any point confident that the Texans were going to win? I allowed myself to be confident. I thought they were going to do it. I thought they were going to pull it off.
Well, I did only insofar as in the NFL, it's still hard to win if you're making careless turnovers and having bad penalties. It's like, you think like against any team, regardless of their record, it's tough to win if you're making mistakes like that. So I didn't think that the Texans were in a position to steal it necessarily, but.
Did you know that there's like this was actually in an article that an angry Chiefs fan sent me? There's a potential bias by that officiating crew against the Chiefs. It's crazy.
They have the data to back it up. There's other games where
21.9% of the Chiefs' penalties have occurred in 14% of their games this season. The two games that were officiated by Carl Cheffers and his group. For 2 seasons in a row, Kansas City is the second most penalized team by Cheffers and his crew. Well, they're the second most penalized. That makes me
you'd
feel
have
like
to see how it looks against the other teams that they're, I guess, officiating too, right? Not just the.
Yeah, especially since they're the second most but it's 2 years in a row, I suppose.
Yeah, it'd have to be the outstanding number one, right?
Yeah.
To really kind of, but that's interesting.
There were a lot. I mean, that was a lot of penalties, and they were not insignificant penalties. They
were brutally timed.
Pass interference penalties
on third and long.
Yeah.
It was like.
I was that's
suspicious.
It was the kind of game where I felt like it was a little bit messed up in that it gave the illusion, I think, that the Texans were playing better than they were.
Agreed.
Because, I mean, you could make the argument that those, like a lot of that hidden yardage did end up in points. I credit the Texans defense for playing their asses off in terms of physicality, but they still did allow 180 yards of rushing, and only 30 of that was in overtime. So it wasn't like they were playing hard and tough and physical enough to jar out the ball a couple times, so that was big. But like Mahomes misfiring a couple times downfield, which, hey, that you can credit the pass rush for forcing that. But I felt like it was the kind of game that towards the end of the season makes you feel like, you know what? These guys are really turning it around under Lovie Smith. I think everything's just starting to click or something.
It's the same thing over the last couple of weeks. I think when you're seeing kind of this quarterback rotation, even on offense, they're keeping games relatively close because they have the luxury of doing things that teams that have more to lose can't really do. You can't just run the quarterback relentlessly and have any concern about their health. You can't blitz more often than you typically do against a team, especially like Mahomes, who's going to make you pay if you're really worried about them completing big passes.
Yeah.
And the Texans, I feel like they're just they're throwing it all out there. They're doing stuff that traditionally you might not do, and it's working sometimes, and they're keeping the games closer where normally they wouldn't be doing those things.
Well,
that's what it looks like to me.
I'll credit Lovie Smith for doing that. And like he blitzes and plays more aggressively than I think sometimes it gets painted. They still it's that when they do play zone, they play the most frustratingly sometimes conservative versions of generic zone possible. But like let me see. Let's play this one. I think we got no, this isn't it. Let me, for you, play the sack. Let's see. Because they sent an all-out blitz. That's right. I called it true blitz. So this one was early on. Shut up. This is when they brought Kirksey. But I was impressed that the defensive ends both came clean on this one, too. Like, it was just a good pass rush by the ends too. There was the back. Tell me if you're the center. Who are you pissed at after the? I mean, this is just a.
Well, it wasn't the ends really. It was the tackle. It was the three technique on the right.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah. So they sent 6 here, so it's a true blitz. The three technique. Yeah. Malik Collins comes in, and there's nothing here other than like the running back not.
No, I mean,
blitz,
right? That one's interesting because it's kind of one of those where you look afterwards and it kind of looks like a jailbreak. It looks like everybody just came free.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, he's going to get sacked no matter what here, right? Probably.
Yeah.
But still, you're kind of looking and the running back just fully misses his guy. It's just basically like slide pros what it looks like, and he just missed his guy.
But you got, I'm looking at just downfield, and you've got Christian Harris
covered
running with. It's not the back, it's tight end. You've got Kelsey getting jammed. Like everybody's if it lasted a little bit longer there, you had that time over the middle. I mean, that's classic. Okay, if you're going to play, and they were playing single high there, but the pass rush came clean. That's one of the things I've been encouraged by.
It was good. They're able to generate a little more pressure than it seems like they were able to at least 5-6 weeks ago.
This one I wanted to watch with you. Just because sometimes, like before this game, I was talking smack about how Jalen Hurts should be the MVP of the league. and then I saw this. Yeah. What the hell? And by the way, okay, this one, did you ever figure out? I watched this a couple times. I couldn't figure out why Kelsey was so angry. And I think it was just that Des King was being a little bit of a productive prick here. Yeah. But I think that he thought that Kelsey was still trying to run.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he knew that. Yeah, but he would have known. Des King knew that it was down, and he would have heard the whistle, and he just gave him that extra little bit of business.
I mean, I guess it's kind of one of those things where I sort of feel like if I'm a Texans, a diehard Texans fan, or if I'm on that team, I want my guy making that play and being obnoxious on defense every time. I mean, I don't have a problem with it. I would have, because he drew the flag and it didn't look egregious in the moment to me at all. So he totally called him out on it, and it's one of those things where, I mean, Kelsey, he should probably know better than to do that. But it seems like maybe it sort of generated some buzz on the offense.
Yeah, they ended up driving 97 yards on this drive. This was this was after they had punted for field position because they were up by 7. That was the one. It was more graphic than a lot of people wanted, but I'd said it inverted my penis. When that's whatever the opposite of getting engorged about something was, that punting from the 50 when you're up by 7 in the second quarter against the Chiefs
like
on
a cold
4th
bath,
and 1.
just crotch focused.
Except also, I don't know what Pep Hamilton, if they were going to go for it, would have sent in Jeff Driscoll,
right,
and would have tried to run some QB sweep or something sweet and cute, and it would have been snuffed and cut out at the knees.
It's rough. I mean, it's definitely one of those things where, to your point, I mean, if you're going to beat a team like the Chiefs, I mean, even when there's relatively low stakes, you're not going to do it by punting to Mahomes.
Okay, so here's one. I want to watch the linebackers here because this is another one I found interesting. It was 3rd and 5. They're showing blitz. Mm-hmm. Okay, good. They're just showing blitz. I was worried for a second that one of those guys got duped by play action when the back was set up 2 yards in front of the quarterback. But they were showing blitz, and oh boy, if they could have just kept contained on the right.
Pretty deep, pretty well defended.
But look at, I know. No, any versus look, they paint him into a coffin corner. Yeah. Look at his body position when he throws it. It's like he's convulsing. Watch. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, it's wild, too, because it seems to me you have to give him the benefit that he really knew exactly where Kelsey was going to be. And he saw him, and he threw it right to him in a spot where only he could grab it.
Yeah.
That wasn't luck.
That's a stupid throw by anybody else. Like, there's no way you throw that because there's 3 defenders in the area. He throws it high enough that it can't get undercut. And just, that's freakish right there. Yeah, I can't vote for Jalen Hurts. I'm sorry. I like Jalen Hurts a lot, but that's not that's not where I am right now as an MVP voter. I don't even know who votes for the MVP. I think they're AP people. Oh, okay. So this one was just an appreciation of the ultraviolence. This is Tremon Smith. My God. Okay, so usually you're a high school football coach, and I know that. Hey, Texans cap, by the way, let me know if you can hear Drew now. I upped his volume. Okay, you're a high school football coach, and you know you want to cause turnovers, but as soon as you start preaching turnovers, guys just start going for the turnovers and not the tackle, right? Like, so what you want, ideally, is for them to hit the ball with their helmet or shoulders, and then, like, watch the and by the way, he was drafted by the Chiefs originally, so is Tremon Smith is like John at the sideline. There's some pent up like, look at what you let go, you sons of bitches. He's yelling at somebody.
Look at how much better off I am now. Yeah.
Look at the guy with the mustache.
Just
he
confused.
Starts mentioning to the officials or somebody.
Yeah. Oh, am I being
and Des King was talking to him too. Yeah. I liked the Texans in this game because they were the Chihuahua taking on the German Shepherd that had no business being as yappy as they are, and they just didn't give a damn. Like the Chihuahua got a few licks in. Watch the pad level here. That's crazy.
It's stellar.
Remember when they were going to start penalizing running backs for
I don't know how many plays I've seen that. And don't get me wrong, I mean, I'm just never going to have empathy for, the defense when running backs are allowed to do it. But if you're going to say it's a penalty,
I mean,
they never call it. I mean, there are some that are so egregious, it just never gets, it's just not a thing. Why even pretend that it is?
This is stellar. This is one, though, too. Yeah. This is a kind of play where he could have jumped over him. Yeah. McKinnon could have, just because he knows that Tremon Smith knows he has to get so low. Then the other part of this that I wanted to point out was Christian Harris. This is where I could see that maybe the officials having something against the Chiefs might be valid. This is called a blindside block, which technically I guess that is how they're enforcing it now, like anything back towards the ball. Mm-hmm. I thought they had changed it to where it had to be clearly like going back towards the end zone, the offensive end zone.
Yeah, I thought that was like the defining difference, I mean, I guess don't quote, but I thought it has to be in the direction of the end zone. Right.
But then watch, dude, he gets flagged for it as he's getting just absolutely destroyed.
That's brutal.
Oh, that's right. It was Smith-Schuster with a fumble, but it was McKinnon that got trucked by Christian Harris. And then Christian Harris drew a flag for that block.
Yeah, just the double whammy of being both utterly humiliated in slow motion while they they verify meticulously that that's what happened.
Yeah. Oh, and then because all right, that was the other thing. And this is where you could say, okay, they were screwed. They were just a bad officiating crew. If the Chiefs feel like somehow the Chiefs were getting screwed, this was ruled initially that forward progress had been stopped. So like the ball comes out simultaneously.
Bizarre. That's a really strange one.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there are a few that are that's egregious. I mean, no.
I'm glad you're in agreement with me on that one.
Yeah, same page.
Okay, so this is the one with Teagan Quitoriano, which I was up in the press box, and Clint Sterner immediately said, "Wow, look at that route by Quitoriano." I think there we go. So rookie tight end. I think he's going to be a classic Y tight end that can play in line but also be a receiver. And he looks like he's 19 years old. These guys all look like they're 19 years old to me now.
Yeah, same.
Yeah,
and when Sterner says that too, it just makes you appreciate that they have a line of sight into elements of the game that.
Like that's who he was watching too. Yeah, like in real time, he was like, "Oh, did you see that route by him?" I was like, "Oh yeah, it's totally." I wasn't just zeroing in on the nose tackle like I always do, and then have to try to figure out later what happened. Every time.
It was though.
Okay, so he gives a little shimmy to the outside, and
it's that second move.
And then that second move, yeah.
Well, those are the underappreciated, I guess, routes that I think that they rarely catch even during the broadcast, right? Where it's easy on the ins and outs and posts where they just shake a guy and he basically falls on the ground.
Yeah.
But those subtle little movements, I think, are sort of underappreciated, especially at the tight end position.
So there you go. There's probably a good chance he'll be Super Bowl MVP next year, unless you're being negative about it.
No, I'm not. Never. I believe it.
Yeah, that one, YouTube's a pretty friendly place, but that was the one bit of feedback I got a couple days ago that kind of shocked me. It was somebody furious with me that in a YouTube video I had said that I had basically told the Chiefs to toughen up because I felt like they were whining and complaining a little too much about hard contact. And, okay, was Pat Mahomes right to be upset that he got picked up and slammed to the earth in an era when quarterbacks are drawing flags for just any kind of contact at all? Maybe, but he had fumbled the snap, and once you fumble the snap, anything goes. Right. And then the other one too was Pacheco there got slammed down by Malik Collins as well, and he was upset about that just because he got his helmet ripped off.
Well, I mean they're the Chiefs; they're just automatically supposed to get all the breaks and go directly to the championship.
Yeah, they can't.
I'm poking the bear.
No, I know. I was I can't remember why I added this. I think other than this was the one. There was play action,
right?
And I always remember Greg Roman saying that it's not really a play action party until you pull a guard, because that's when shit gets real.
Yeah, that's a defensive coach saying that for sure.
No, Greg Roman. That's the offensive coordinator for the Ravens.
That's right.
Because but I mean, it helps. It helps a lot if you're really good at running power and everything. I know there's kind of a movement for people to say that effectively running the ball, it doesn't matter if you're effective running the ball or not for play action to work. As long as as long as you show commitment to it. And I think that's usually true, but I think it's kind of one of those things where it's true all of the time, except when somebody's really, really good at running the ball, and then it's terrifying as a defense. So people are going to respect the run, but when it's Derrick Henry or if it's the Ravens when they're running the ball well, I feel like that's when people get petrified about the play action.
Sure. Yeah.
That's okay. So they pull. See, I wouldn't say that pulling the guard here, and the Texans have not been running the ball all that well as of late. I don't think pulling the guard here actually does anything for anybody.
It's not. I mean, it's fun to look at in a vacuum because it's just a great example of what play action looks like when you're actually pulling a guard like that, and it's just a good example of it. But I don't know that I'm seeing that being the rationale for why this play was made. I mean, if anything, that guard, I actually feel like that end, does a pretty good job. I mean, you tell me. I thought he recognized it pretty quickly and adjusted, but it's
the defensive end,
too late. The defensive end,
the left defensive end.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, yeah, you got that little flash to the outside, and then
he respects what the tackle is doing by following him down, and then he tries to move back outside once he realizes that it's actually. I mean, I think he's doing his job. It
does hold him because you get that moment where he's supposed to play the tight end, his triangle. If you've never played defensive end before, you've got a triangle that you're reading. Is your first threats to the inside to see if you got any pullers, and then you work your way up to the quarterback. So he's looking inside. He sees that he's got a puller coming, but then he's got to figure out, like, okay, is this guy trying to seal me? Is he trying to kick me out? And that's enough to freeze his feet for a while. And then you got to start from a standstill as you're getting chipped.
Right.
It's no fun to do. And Chris Moore, I was waiting for Chris Moore to have a big day, and it never came. But he drew some penalties. So
yeah, he did. Yeah, I mean, he's had a pretty good season actually.
Were you as disgusted as I was? Let's see. I sent you my notes, and I don't think I was actually as disgusted by that many things, other than Jeff Driscoll not being able to run short yardage plays. You're the first one that were just You were disgusted last week even on some of his short yardage plays, right? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, because obviously there was one at the end of the game, but then there was a QB sneak earlier. But that wasn't just Driscoll, but that was the offensive line kind of being ineffective too.
It was, but it's also, it's one of these things where I guess I'm more disgusted with just the general sentiment that he's like this dynamic running threat.
Yeah.
I just do completely reject it. It's sort of out of hand. I mean, it's just with where we're at with quarterbacks in the NFL now, really at every level.
Yeah.
You just can't be what he is athletically if that's going to be how you're branded. I
mean,
he's not big enough or strong enough to power through guys on even short yardage with a quarterback sneak to get a first down.
Right.
He's not, so he's not going to bring that to the table, and he doesn't have enough of an ability to make people miss to be dynamic in the open field.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, well, what do you bring to the table? You can run fast in a straight line. That's just not. That's not enough to scare anybody.
That first play that he ran, you could see, it took him like 5 steps to change direction.
Right.
He's a track athlete. Like he runs like Michael Johnson. Remember Michael Johnson? You might have been a little too young for when Michael Johnson
for
was
sure.
at his peak.
The Atlanta Olympics when the golden shoes.
Do you know how he was so upright?
Yeah.
You try to imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what. Yeah, you're saying that Driscoll is Michael Johnson.
He should have done track.
Yeah.
Except for I can't imagine who would have ever tried to talk him out of that. Yeah, that's
Well, I remember we were on the team together in Houston when they brought out. I think it was Justin Was it Justin Gatlin?
Yeah,
he was like he was for sure. I think on the Olympics, right? And
I think he had just won the World Championships.
Yeah, he had just won it, and he came out. They worked him out. I remember that when we were in the bubble and they were working him out.
Oh, they worked him out?
Oh, yeah. We were.
Now, he was a guy I could see being more of a shifty Tyreek Hill type.
Sure.
Right?
And I think
he was a little bit more compact.
He was. Yeah. He was kind of a muscular dude. And he had, I think, maybe played like maybe his first year at Florida or something. But that was a guy where, I mean, everybody stopped what they were doing to just kind of watch what he was going to do. And it kind of became, I mean, it was almost immediately clear. Very fast, straightforward, but that was kind of the extent of what he was doing that was impressive.
That's I don't know, and I don't mean to be like throwing shade. I'm not throwing shade at Michael Johnson or anything. A lot of football players work with him. He's got a something up in Dallas, like where guys work out. Derek Stingley was up there working out. I think with Sauce Gardner, the same place
with Michael Johnson.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Sauce Gardner was getting ready to come up and play man defense because he's going to be drafted number 4 overall in the NFL. And Derek Stingley's up there getting ready to be the best damn zone cornerback on a bad defense that you've ever seen. They come up, and I hate some of the advanced stat sites. It's not their fault, but they list receptions allowed. And in zone, you can be doing exactly the right thing, but the reception's in your zone, so it's considered a reception.
It's on you.
It's not. Yeah, it's not against you. It's not a check mark against. But if that's your responsibility and somebody catches it for 5 yards on 3rd and 10, it's considered a check. So some of those stats look worse than how he actually is.
Like giving up sacks and 3-step drops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
those. Is that really?
I think Pro Football Focus and some of those other sites account for that. Like, I mean, they account for when they try to credit sacks. It'll never go this way in the official books. But when they'll separate out the sacks that are responsible, that are the quarterback's responsibility versus the offensive line. You should do. You know what you should do after you finish up this next business acquisition you're doing and you're rolling in cash. You should commission PFF to go study 2002 and maybe retroactively remove some of the sacks.
Well, we talked about this last week. Is that I think that a huge movement that needs to start gaining some steam is making sure that all the athletes you haven't heard of have their names. Everything's correct, and my record has been besmirched by being on the most sacks given up team in history in Houston that year, purely because David Carr wanted to boost his QBR.
Was that 2005? Was that?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He got sacked more in 2005 than 2002.
I'm almost certain. Yeah, it was. I remember we had like blown that record out of the water. I think. I don't. Good times though. Otherwise.
Rip Hamilton. I don't know about this. He says the 2 QB system. Oh, R.I.P. Hamilton. So, like, R.I.P. Pat Hamilton. I think. R.I.P. Pat Hamilton? I don't know. The 2 QB system with Mills and AR-15 next year, Anthony Richardson. Yeah, Anthony Richardson is – that's going to be an interesting pick for somebody when they draft Anthony Richardson in the 2nd or 3rd round. And that's a more understandable one than a Davis Mills, I think. I felt like Davis Mills, who's – I don't criticize the Texans taking – Davis Mills at all in the 3rd round. I didn't at the time, and a lot of people were pissed that I wouldn't criticize that move, but I kind of get it. Like, you just keep drafting quarterbacks until you don't have quarterbacks anymore. But he didn't have, for a guy like Davis Mills, I didn't see where the upside was on either arm talent, athletic ability, something like that. Where with Anthony Richardson, I think, out of Florida, you could almost say, all right, well, I see something there. Oh, sure. Let me ask you this then. Okay, Bryce Young is probably about 6 foot, maybe a little bit shorter, anywhere between 175 and 194. It's all over the place. But he's probably in the 180s somewhere. Mm-hmm. You know, just when he's walking around, he could probably bulk up at the combine and drink a bunch of water and weigh in a little bit heavier.
Right.
The last quarterback drafted in the 1st round who weighed less than 200 pounds was Jim McMahon back in the early 80s. Yeah.
Is that true?
Yes. So I'm thinking about Jim McMahon.
How heavy was who's the midget in
Doug
Arizona?
Flutie?
No, in Arizona.
Kyler Murray, but he's heavy. He's over 200. He's actually kind of thick. Yeah. So I'm reading that article, and I went down this rabbit hole of reading about J-Rock saying 6 foot 179 for Bryce Young. So I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Who knows what he is actually?
That's more slight than I think I would have thought.
Well, Doug Flutie was 5'10", 180. So Flutie was shorter, which means he's a little bit thicker.
Right.
Which I almost would prefer 5'10", 180 than 6 foot
Wilson,
180.
Not an overly tall guy, but I mean he's thick too.
So I'm looking at these old pictures of Jim McMahon, and it sticks out at you. I mean, that was back when quarterbacks just didn't lift weights, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I'm looking at Jim McMahon at BYU, and I'm thinking like, all right, so he was banged the hell up. That was one of the things they used to figure that the Bears could have won a couple of Super Bowls if he had just stayed healthy. And I kind of thought like, all right, well, it was probably because he was always out boozing and everything, and he played in an era when guys just got the crap beat out of him all the time. Mm-hmm. You know, apparently, according to this article that I found, in which they chronicled him getting pulled out of the hospital where he was for pinched nerves by Ditka, who insisted that he played. So he went in and he played after taking a couple Vicodin, and I think that was the game where he broke a vertebrae but didn't realize it. Like it was some nasty stuff.
Rough.
Yeah. But I think that here we go. I'm gonna try to find. I'm gonna share this picture of Jim McMahon.
God, what an era too, where they just had like just salad bowls full of Vicodin and greens in the locker room, and it was just like, okay,
it's what we do here. Okay, so let's see. There he is on the left. Look at how small his hips are, like how skinny he is. He looks like that baseball player from Dazed and Confused. Yeah.
Right.
So that's when he was skinny. But then you see by the time he got to, I think boy, look at this one. That's a skinny dude to be drafted in the first round. But they also, like, they were playing back when guys would get hit 2 steps after the ball was gone. They just slam them the hell down. I don't know.
You're saying, I guess what you're saying is, like, that's your concern. That's your big knock. If the Texans or anybody, I guess, go after Young.
Yeah, that he's just going to get manhandled and destroyed. But I don't know. I mean, Flutie played in Canada where they're just passing all the time. I don't want to be xenophobic. You know how people are about Canadians and whatnot.
Oh yeah, one of the most problematic tropes that we have in our culture right now.
I don't want to be racist against Canadians, but frankly, I don't think they hit as hard as Americans. Okay, so call me a racist, but I don't think Canadians hit as hard as Americans.
They don't.
So,
but
he did play at the age of, the last time he had a full starting season, he was 39 years old, and he started 16 games for the Chargers at 5'10", 180. In an era when, this is Doug Flutie, not Jim McMahon.
I was like, are we drawing a parallel? I'm forgetting who we're drawing the comparison to Bryce Young for.
Bryce Young to Doug Flutie.
Bryce Young and Doug Flutie. Similar. Got it. Okay.
So because Doug Flutie played, he got drafted in like the 11th round. That was poor Doug Flutie. You have one of the most iconic throws of all time. You win the Heisman, and you probably the last great thing ever to come out of Boston College. Sorry, Mike Mamula. And you get drafted in the 11th round.
But that's a good sliding doors example, though, right? I mean, if that doesn't happen and he ends up getting too much credit, like, do you think he always has the same chip on his shoulder or the same?
That's true.
That could have been the path that led him to some of the NFL success he ended up having.
He could have ended up because then he would have been a huge bust.
Right.
Exactly. And then all of a sudden you become nobody wants to touch you.
Now he went into this experience of sort of pseudo obscurity for a while, and then he came back and he was he turned into sort of this darling.
He totally was, because Rob Johnson. When I was a rookie in Jacksonville, Rob Johnson was there, and I knew Rob a little bit. But Rob was like the opposite of everything Flutie was, because he was a Southern Cal guy. He looked like he was from L.A.
Looked the part.
He was, like wavy hair,
good-looking dude,
shredded, 6'2", 6'3", whatever. He wasn't a first-round draft pick,
smart, charismatic, fucking funny.
And he was probably more like 6'4" or something. Yeah. So
cook.
So I mean, that was a genuine quarterback controversy where it sounded like that was one where sometimes I think it's overstated how much it might split a locker room. But I know talking to guys from the Bills up then, I remember Jay Foreman saying that, like, oh no, we all wanted Flutie. We all knew Flutie was the guy. But then I talked to somebody else that was like, no, I got to be honest. I thought Rob Johnson was the guy.
And you can see it too, because those guys are great examples of being so opposite stylistically, and how they're perceived, right? So I could see a locker room very divisive in figuring out where they value those kinds of traits in a player.
Yeah,
it's like I could totally see it.
Yeah, I don't know. I love Bryce Young. I really want him to work out. But now I'm putting myself, I'm trying to empathize more these days. And so I put myself in the shoes of every person that I might criticize in the future. And I put myself in the shoes of Nick Caserio, who just drafted a guy in Derek Stingley, number 3 overall, who the biggest knock against him was that he was injury prone. And now the player taking one player after him is probably going to be Defensive Rookie of the Year, and Derek Stingley is out for the year with an injury. And it's the third year in a row he'll have missed a lot of time with injuries and or illness, or at least at LSU also that was the reason they cited as him not playing as well as he did his freshman year. So there's all that. Kenyon Green, the other first-round pick, is on IR. He's been banged up all season long. So all of a sudden,
I forget that both those guys are in the first round.
Yeah. Oh, which I'm patient.
And they're going to have two more this coming season too. So or this coming draft, excuse me.
And I'm patient with first rounders. It takes time. Kenyon Green was coming along his first few games of the year. It was that he got hurt in the Raiders game, and it seems like it might be part injury related, part playing stud defensive lineman that's held him back. But like if I put myself in Nick Casario's shoes, you try to stay true to your philosophy and everything. But I'll be honest with you, if that were me, I'd be extra nervous about drafting a kid that might get folded up like origami because he weighs 170 pounds. And if he gets hurt because of his size, it's not going to be a pretty injury. It's going to be a really ugly injury. It's going to be
rough. It's not going to be soft tissue. It's going to be something awful, and I agree. And it calls into question just all the people underappreciate, I think, in general, or it just feels like they don't understand all the other cogs in the machine that go into either a first overall pick or a quarterback being drafted early. It's not just that they're freak athletes who don't get hurt. I mean, there's all these other. Is the line performing well? Do you have a running game? Do you have a scheme that even makes sense for that guy? And it's like, do you envision that any of those things are going to be fully in place next year for the Texans?
Right.
If not, then you have a quarterback who also is just thrown into a rough spot. And so it's,
You're putting me in a tough spot here because I keep trying to talk myself into Bryce Young. And it's not, I guess I keep trying to talk myself out of Bryce Young, and as I start to do so, I try to talk myself back into Bryce Young. It's a very complicated relationship we have. It is. Bryce Young and I. Yeah. And that
what does he think about it?
He doesn't even know. It's creepy. So this is the thing. Normally when people say, well, I don't want to draft a quarterback now because it's an imperfect situation, there's just too many examples of teams that drafted an awesome quarterback and they sucked for a year or two. Peyton Manning, Troy Aikman, go back down the line. But then you turn it around and they're just fine. Or B, the turnarounds come a lot faster than you expect. The Lions and the Jaguars, I think, potentially could have turned it around. We'll see how these next few games go. But turned it around faster than a lot of people would have thought or anticipated. But with Bryce Young, it's a lot harder to sit and think, all right, well, Peyton Manning's a big dude. Troy Aikman's a big dude. Andrew Luck's a big dude. Those guys took abuse, but they are kind of built for taking that abuse. With Bryce Young, it'll be – and I think the other thing with those guys is with your more traditional pocket passers, guys that by necessity because they don't have the athleticism, those guys – can still I don't think it hinders their development as much as it does a younger player that has to run around and has to improvise because he has that choice. So when the protection breaks down, he's got that choice of extending plays. That's what makes me nervous. But when I talk myself back into it, what I say is, all right, look, you draft a quarterback in the first round. It's Bryce Young. He's tiny. You spend a boatload of money on a guard in free agency, a center in free agency, you trade for somebody. You bolster that offensive line. And bada bing, bada boom. Super Bowl 2024.
Yeah, that's all it takes. Yeah. Is there another quarterback who is less potentially at risk of getting hurt, less slight?
I mean, CJ Stroud is more like a sturdy dude. And Will Levis, the kid out of – let me show you a picture of Will Levis. Will Levis, they'll compare to Josh Allen, and he was a transfer to Kentucky out of Penn State. So he let's see.
Yeah, Josh Allen is I'm watching that guy do stuff that I'm honestly not sure that I've seen.
I know, but Josh Allen, Pat Mahomes – those guys just we'll show you some Oh, geez, this guy. I don't know who this guy is, but he's high end. All right. So I'm going to start. I'll start giving you homework for draft guys so I can. Have you watched any college football lately?
Yeah, I have. I try to catch probably a little more college than I do.
Yeah.
Than I do NFL.
All right.
Yeah, it's a touchdown pass.
Hey, screw you, buddy.
It's another one. So he's throwing touchdown passes. That's good. Yeah, he looks like a big dude. Yeah, he reminds me a little bit of is it Herbert, quarterback?
Hold on a second. Shh. All right, I'm done with this guy. So like he's the more prototype in size. So I could see Will Levis. I could see this being the kind of draft where a couple teams fall in love with Will Levis. He somehow, is in the mix, and depending on who's picking first and who's picking second, are the Seahawks picking second or third? That's the other big story, though, too, by the way. So the Seahawks trade away Russell Wilson for
incredible. I mean, probably the best story, the best story in the NFL.
That ends up being the number 3 overall pick, and that's where I'm kind of. I want so bad for the Broncos to be stuck with Russell Wilson. And make it even worse by I want the Seahawks to get a really good quarterback. So I'm very invested in the quarterback draft class, not for my own selfish purposes with the Texans, but because I want that trade to be even worse. Because then it becomes definitively worse than the DeAndre Hopkins trade.
Oh, without question.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, it is going to end up being one of the worst that I can recall. Yeah. And that's saying something. I mean, I think it's just going to be such a debacle.
Joshua Stanley says, why would you think the line needs to be fixed? You need 2 players to bolster the line, but it doesn't necessarily need an overhaul. I mean, I think that's pretty much what I said. You get a guard and a center, and maybe you draft somebody. I get nervous about drafting. Kenyon Green's just not a guarantee at this point, but if he can just even be serviceable, and you get honestly, AJ Cann is serviceable. The right guard. Quesenberry's been a disaster at center. So, and Quesenberry makes A.J. Cann not as good as he could be. And Kenyon Green has been really, really rough for the last. So, between center and left guard, you might really only need a center. So, if you can go out and get a center, then, I'm not too worried about a rookie quarterback behind that offensive line.
Yeah, I think what Josh was saying is spot on. I mean, if we're not expressing that sentiment, I mean that's accurate. Yeah. I mean, a center can do a lot, like you said, to make those 2 guards look far more competent. But it's shocking how much just a more effective scheme can do for those guys too. The scheme is just rough.
Joshua says he was responding to somebody else. Sorry, Joshua. I didn't think you were arguing or anything. I thought you might have been saying it rhetorically. All right, listen, Texans cap. I don't need your negativity here, okay? You are Texans cap, talking about the OG market and the center being even worse. You're like those people that underestimate the Astros pipeline. That's what I say to you.
I like the straw man turned Astros dig. Yeah, totally.
That's what happens here, Drew, in Houston.
Every
year. No, for the last 3 years, like Jeremy Pena last year wasn't even in the top 100 of prospects. Keith Law and Baseball America and all these publications and writers say, well, you see, this is where the Astros get their comeuppance. This is when it all falls apart because they don't have a pipeline. They ignored Cuba. They were no better than John F. Kennedy. Underestimating Cuba before the Bay of Pigs. That's what they are.
About to say, I did not expect this to turn. I didn't know that the barren OG center market was going to be a transition to the Bay of Pigs.
Keith Law should have seen that. Keith Law's estimation of the Astros pipeline the past 3 years has been no worse or no better than the Bay of Pigs invasion.
Yeah.
Can Green play center?
Good? Question mark.
I don't think so. I don't think you want him to.
The struggles that he's had do not lend itself to better success at center. That's kind of the.
Yeah. I think that Kenyon Green's more of a mauler, and like his footwork is what needs to improve. So moving him to center where footwork is at a premium, probably not the best deal. And I think, like what I would say, J-Rock, is that I think he's got a chance to be just fine at guard. He's just got to get healthy and spend his off season watching film. Let's see. Somebody, Lovey said something the other day in the press conference that, I bristled against it first, but it is true. You just don't want to make excuses. So I'm not making excuses. Mm-hmm. This is what I'm hoping is the case with both Stingley and Kenyon Green, is that with some guys, because of playing college football, going to a bowl game, and that wasn't the case with Stingley, and then going on into the draft prep process, then immediately right into mini camps and everything afterwards, is that it does end up being a really long year for rookies. Like the longest year of your football career, really, because you're doing all that, the working out in February, March, April, stuff that really, and kind of going at it hard because you're getting ready for the combine and all that stuff, that sometimes guys just don't handle that as well. So I'm hoping that with both those guys, that's at least a little bit part of it. I would love for them to just be durable hosses that can go all night long like a trucker, but that's not the case so far.
They're good. They're going to be better. You have to assume that they're probably going to be better.
Yeah. Best centers are Dalton Reisner might be available, McGovern and Bozeman. Maybe there's a trade or something coming along. But all right, well, you've got homework too, Drew. There was one of the people that watched one of our other ones wanted to know about what we should be looking for in a center. So tell me.
I'm always ready for center talk.
When we get into the spring, I'll send you some college seniors to watch. It's harder than it used to be because they used to have this website. I can't remember what it was called. Some of the people on here right now probably remember, where you could find complete games, and it was TV copy, but you could find complete games of all these different prospects, and it would highlight the player or circle the player before each play. So it was awesome. You could go through and watch an entire game of an offensive guard in about 10 minutes because it would have just that guy's plays, and they would, they'd cut it off even before you could see whether it was a reception or not. It was it was awesome. And you just sit there.
It's tough. Yeah. Now it's hard. That's all kind of gone away. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Because I watched every single one of Clowney's games, every snap of every game that he played his last year, because that website was still there. Yeah. Now you got to go to the black market for it. So somebody DM me and tell me how to get into your black market club. I'm also looking into buying some shrooms from Europe, but I can't pull the trigger on it.
Well, just out of fear of potential getting busted.
If I got caught,
or more just that you're going to eat off-market fungus.
Shrooms. No, I trust that I think the black market shrooms in Europe are probably cleaner than the soon-to-be above-market shrooms in Oregon or Washington. So I've never done shrooms before, but I've been investigating psychedelic therapy. And if I ordered shrooms and they got intercepted and somehow they decided to make me the test case, I would gladly say listen, they're legalizing this all over the place. They have a definite therapeutic value to them.
Are you looking for? Are we doing the daily microdose element? Or
no. I would be looking
the experience.
I'd be looking for that experience you get where you kind of see yourself as just a part of the whole, and you kind of you kill your own. It's ego death. You just stop being so self-focused and concerned. Not that I'm incredibly self-focused or anything, but
says the guy wearing the headset live streaming on YouTube.
I do this because I need. I never know which direction my career is going. I gotta have tendrils in multiple places. Yeah. Listen, Seth Payne's show isn't concerned with
no, not at all. No.
All these trappings that other people are trapped with. Yes.
Completely. I have no interest in self-adulation at all, says 10 people who just asked me a question on YouTube.
Hey, J-Rock says, by the way, that they took that one website down because of copyright issues. I'm wondering if it might come back now that YouTube's got it dialed in to where, like, I know I sent you one of the ones we had done the other day, and you said, hey, it says there's a copyright flag on here. They don't care. Like, what happens now is because the NFL and the networks are all dialed in on YouTube, they get royalties now. So it's like it's the way it should have been for the last 20 years, except now they have the technology for it to where they can track things. So they're like, yeah, go ahead. Run it, because they'll get paid for it, and so that's pretty cool. It's all happening. Shrooms and free and fair use of all this kind of stuff.
Very excited to hear the outcome of the shroom.
If I do decide to buy shrooms, and I decide to have like the religious experience with it, could you read up on how to be my shaman and talk me through it?
Yes,
I don't want to.
1,000%.
I need somebody I can trust.
An impromptu internet certified shaman.
Yeah.
1,000,000% would love to.
From the documentary I saw on Netflix, you're supposed to hold my hand and tell me to just go with the experience.
Yeah, deal. No problem. That's a low bar. I can do that for shamanhood.
They do. I know. I started looking into it when my dad was sick. My dad was at a point where he's like, I've done everything under the sun. Like shrooms and acid aren't going to help me now. Like not to try to cure him, but just to kind of, with a lot of terminally ill people, with a lot of terminally ill people, they feel more at peace with wherever they are in life.
If it ends up better than you running sweaty through the Stanford Arboretum and calling the cops on yourself.
Yeah.
As has been known to happen.
Really? Was that
people during their first experience? Then you'll probably be leaps and bounds ahead of where I was.
Yeah, that's a stupid. You did it in a stupid situation, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Like the wrong kind of. You're having the wrong. You weren't off in a forest looking at the stars or anything.
No, I definitely was. I was taking bad advice.
Yeah.
And lesson learned. But after that, it was great.
I don't know
the things you were looking for.
I don't know. Like I give a lot of credit to people throughout history that have discovered which ones to do and which ones not to. Because in our place up in New York, we've got a lot of mushrooms all over the place. But I'll look at I'll look at pictures and everything. And I'm like, that's either the kind you're looking for, or that's a kind that could make you vomit your actual stomach up through your mouth.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And die, bleed out through your eyeballs until you're dead.
That's 30 days of diarrhea, and that is a wonderful introspective experience. Yeah. But they look so similar. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll see you next week unless I get too enlightened by then and throw off these earthly trappings.
Oh, I hope you do. I'm rooting for that.
Hey, thanks everybody for joining us that was here, and subscribe if you haven't already. And this is desperately what I need is like some kind of validation from people on the internet. So awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, Drew.